be showing you just a little bit of how to make sausage out of this book, Kielbasa and Jagerwurst, out of the book Charcuterie, and yeah.
We're gonna make the wild game sausage, throw a little pork fat in there and some spices, throw it on the smoker. I'm telling you, we've done it years past, and it is one of the best things, most tasty things you can do with your game meat. So here we go. So when it comes to making sausage, you're gonna have a couple different types of spices. So you have what I would originally consider your traditional American spices: salt, pepper, garlic. Gotta have those. But when making sausage, there's a couple other ingredients that's important to get. One, you've got kind of your warmer spices, seasonings that are typically associated with sausage. That would be like coriander, nutmeg, ginger, and ground mustard seed. Those are kind of some staples to give it that warm spice. And as Americans, we don't use that as much, kind of more European flavors, but I'm telling you, don't overuse them because they can overpower everything else, but you need just a little bit in there. It really brings out that taste. In addition to that, most people say, you know, when making sausage, add pink salt, nitrates, or nitrites, but those, you know, traditionally have been linked to cancer-causing agents, so we go for the all-natural version, which is found in nature. So dried celery powder and dried cherry juice powder. Throw those in there. That's nature's way of preserving it. So that's most of what we use. Depending on which variation of sausage, we'll change up the ratios. Equipment that you're gonna need. So you're gonna need a sausage stuffer. We picked this one up off Amazon. It's probably 150 bucks. It has 7-pound capacity. You can get bigger ones and more commercialized ones. This is a hand crank. You're gonna need some big bowls. And you're going to need some ice in these because sausage needs to stay cold so the bacteria doesn't start to grow if it gets warm to room temp. Gotta have a grinder, and then you also gotta have these baking sheets just as a nice place to put rings of sausage on, and then place them in the fridge or outside so that pellicle can start to harden up. You're going to need your casings. We get hog casings online. You can get them at a local butcher. And then of course the other piece of equipment is a smoker. You gotta smoke them, you gotta bathe it in that smoke and give it that finished taste.
Okay guys, so we're going to do mix all of our seasonings first. That way when the time comes to mix it all together, it's already pre-mixed.
1 teaspoon of nutmeg, so 2 teaspoons. That is such a distinct.
Oh yeah, you know it's there.
Yeah, you don't want to.
It's kind of like when a girl whispers in your ear. School of Culinary Arts and Measurements.
Well, then we should be covered. So you're going to want to get some fat, from pork fat from a local butcher. Most of the time they'll come in thin strips, but you got to cut them into chunks that will go in the grinder. As you can see, it'll have a lot of pork fat on there too. So while we like to mix 70% venison, 30% pork, that pork is probably not going to be 100% fat. So sometimes we'll do like 60-40 venison and pork fat because we know that about, you know, a quarter of that pork fat is actually going to be pork shoulder or meat. So we'll dice that up and then we'll throw it in there with the venison. One of the things that helps with making sausage is doing it when it's really cold out. That way you can set your bowls right outside and they are freezing cold when you're ready for them, and bring them in and keep the sausage nice and cold.
So
And now we're dicing up the fat into little pieces. Look at that. Look at that. Perfect. High quality. Once you have that sausage cut up, go ahead and dump it in there. Our ratio today is 2 pounds of the pork fat with 3.5 pounds of lean deer meat cut into chunks about like this. Now we're gonna mix in it's a double batch, so we're gonna do 1 scoop each and just get it nice and incorporated. So that first recipe was for Jagerwurst, which is a hunter sausage from German roots. It's kind of got those warm spices in it. It's a crowd pleaser. The second one is Kielbasa, which is a smoked Polish sausage, kind of more right down the middle. You know, salt, pepper, garlic, smoke, that sort of thing. Again, if you are doing this, you've got to keep everything cold. So in between, whenever you're not doing anything with that meat, you got to set it either outside in the really cold temperatures or set it in the freezer so bacteria doesn't start to grow. So we went ahead and added about 12 ounces of crushed ice, which will keep it cold, but also it adds that water to make that sausage juicier. So we're gonna run it through the coarse grinder, and then it'll incorporate it, and then we'll run it through the fine grinder, which kind of just makes it even more mixed together.
Look at that. Careful.
Once that's done, go ahead and just kind of mix it in a little bit. All right, so we ran it through the coarse grinder. Now we're gonna run it through the fine grinder. Again, if your hands aren't almost achy, hurting cold, then it's not cold enough. So make sure that meat stays really cold, either in the freezer or outside. This step takes a little longer because that once ground meat does not go quite as quickly through the grinder as the chunks do. All right, now it's time to move our ground meat into our 5 to 7 pound container for the sausage stuffer.
Boy, that smells good.
Want to get it packed flat as you can. The stuffer, if it's a good one, will actually have an air release valve in there to get some of that air out of there. Before you put your hog hand casing on there, you're going to want to put the stuffer tube on the stuffer itself.
I am certified in hand cranking, by the way. It is not.
So the idea here is you're going to want to get crank down to where that sausage stuffs all the way to right to the end of the tube before you put the casing on there. Get it started. There it is. All right, that's right where it needs to be. Now we're at the point where we actually have the hog hank, which is hog intestine. This is the largest learning curve of the whole thing. You got to get one out, separated, and then you got to get it loaded on the stuffer, which is takes time. That's a good one. So you want to take a little bit of water and just prime this. That way the casing will go on there. This is easily the hardest part. First time you do it, it'll take you a while. There's a learning curve here. You're gonna be like, oh man, this isn't worth it. But then eventually you'll get to that point where you're really good at it. There it is, right there. You want to keep that casing, there it goes. And then if you can get to moving on it, it's like there's times where it's really going to be tough and there's times where it's going to just kind of glide right along. You gotta little by little. Takes a while. Okay, so you're going to start off by tying this little knot on the end. Let me get that air out of there. Get as much air out. You're going to have air in there. It's going to happen. Okay. And then we're ready.
Consistent pressure. If it's more of a consistent pressure on this, it'll come out in a consistent as well. Constant movement.
All right. All right, so here you have it. Look at the presentation. Absolutely beautiful. This is about 7 pounds of, 6.5 pounds of smoked kielbasa. We're gonna put it in the fridge and let it sit overnight. Overnight to allow the pellicle, the skin, to get tacky and dry so it absorbs the smoke better. All right, here we are. It's the next day. We're gonna get the smoker going. You gotta give these things a bath in the smoke. That's what really sets off the flavor. You're gonna wanna set that smoker as low a temp as you can go. For whatever reason, my Traeger has a hard time being at 180 degrees. Sometimes it shuts off, so ours is at 225. There she goes. Personally, I really like hickory pellets because I like hickory smoke. That's what I grew up on, but use whatever wood you like. All right, now we're gonna get the sausage out of the fridge. I've been in here for a few...
Daddy left it.
Oh man, watch out, Bubba. Keep recording. No.
You need to.
All right. We're gonna start with the kielbasa. That pellicle has a nice tacky outside edge to it, so it'll absorb the smoke.
Butt boil today. We're also smoking the sausage.
Oh yeah, so you want to evenly lay these out. It only takes about 50 minutes, but since there's pork in here, it has to get to about 150 degrees. If it was just straight venison, we could leave it on, you can almost eat that raw. Well, you could eat it raw really, but that pork in there is what requires you to cook it to 150 degrees. Man, look at the color. It looks absolutely gorgeous. Look at that, come on.
Perfect.
There we go. So, we use meter probes. It's perfect. It tells you exactly what on the the temperature is on your phone, and you stick them in there. That way we know when they hit 150 internal. Get them spaced out, that way they get a nice smoky flavor all the way around. The one here in the middle.
And the two on the outside.
All right. Seeing as how these are big sausage links, it takes about 50 minutes at this temp, which really, we like to get on there about an hour, hour and a half, but that's just enough smoke flavor to get them where we want them. Drop her in. Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo-hoo. All right, so these bad boys are ready. We got 2 or 3 probes in there. Some of them are overcooked, you know, by 20 or 30 degrees over that 150. And that's okay, as long as they don't pop. Some of them will pop, which means, you know, they just lose their juice. Oh my gosh, look at that color. Look at that color. These are plump as can be, amazing. This one here popped, so you can see it lost a little bit, it's wrinkled. It's gonna happen. They're not all gonna stay perfect. If they do overcook, not that big of a deal. You'd much rather have overcooked pork than undercooked pork because you could really get sick. So let's get these off of here. Once you take them off, you're gonna wanna let them sit to bloom. That's the term, to just kind of let them reach their room temp and their full color. So like a flower blooms. Great color right now, looking really good. I always like to kind of leave those temperature probes in there until the meat kind of hardens a little bit. But we're just gonna let this sit here for a little while. My gosh, that's beautiful, absolutely gorgeous. Just slice some little slices. All right, here comes the test, the taste test. This one did leak a little bit.
That looks good though, that outside there.
Oh man, look at the color.
Looks like it's fully cooked too. All right, here we go.
Got the smoke ring on there. Yeah. Wow.
Like, got the right amount of juiciness. Got good cooked all the way through.
There you have it. You know, dude.
This, honestly, I think this is better than the one you made last year. I think last year.
Even though it. All right.
I won't put it together.
Back in the lab down here, doing a real simple taking them, vac sealing them, labeling them, and in the freezer they go. Hope you guys liked this one. Stay tuned for the next one, which will be smoked snack sticks, venison smoked snack sticks. Thanks.